The drive back from my cardiologist's office takes exactly 22 minutes if you catch the lights on Meridian right. I know because I've made that drive every 3 months for the past 4 years, ever since my doctor found that irregular rhythm and put me on the blood thinner. I know the way the afternoon light falls across the overpass. I know that drive so well, I could probably do it with my eyes closed. Every turn, every signal, every quiet stretch that leads me back to the house my wife and I shared for more than 3 decades. That Tuesday in October felt no different at first, ordinary, predictable until it wasn't. I almost missed the note tucked under my windshield wiper, folded once like it didn't want attention. Normally I'd throw something like that away without thinking, just another flyer or advertisement, but something about it stopped me. Maybe it was the paper, torn rough from a legal pad. Maybe it was the heavy blue ink pressed hard like whoever wrote it meant every word. "Don't go inside, come to my house first, I have something you need to see. Russell." I sat there longer than I should have, engine ticking softly as it cooled, a strange tightness settling in my chest that had nothing to do with my heart condition. I looked at my front door, the same red one my wife chose years ago because she said it made the place feel warm, and for the first time, it didn't feel like home. I reversed slowly and pulled into Russell's driveway next door. He was already waiting, standing on his porch like he'd been watching for me. Russell is the kind of man who doesn't miss details, a retired postal inspector who spent his life noticing what others overlook. He didn't greet me the way he usually does. Instead, he opened the door and told me to come in, his tone leaving no room for questions. Inside, everything was as neat and quiet as always, the faint smell of coffee and cedar filling the room. He set a laptop down in front of me and hesitated just long enough to say he hadn't meant to see what he saw. Then he pressed play. The footage was from a couple of weeks earlier, a Thursday morning, the exact time I would have been at my woodworking class. I watched as a car I didn't recognize pulled up outside my house. Moments later, my front door opened, and my wife stepped out. She wasn't alone. A man followed her, someone I had never seen before, and they stood close together on the porch, talking like it wasn't the first time. After a minute, she handed him an envelope. He slipped it away, touched her arm like it was natural, and left. Russell paused the video, but he didn't need to explain anything. He showed me more clips, different days, same pattern. Always Thursdays, always when I wasn't home. When I finally managed to ask who the man was, Russell told me he'd looked into it. An estate attorney. That word alone didn't sit right. My wife and I had handled all of that years ago together. There had been no conversations, no updates, nothing. Then Russell showed me something else, something worse. A legal filing. It took a moment to understand it, to really let it sink in. My wife had gone to court, asking to have me declared mentally unfit. According to the document, I was unstable, confused, incapable of managing my own life. And at the bottom of that claim was my son's name. His signature. I don't remember much after that, just the feeling of everything shifting beneath me. Like a structure I had trusted my entire life, suddenly revealing cracks I'd never seen before. And sitting there in that quiet room, I realized something I wasn't ready to admit yet. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a plan, and I had just walked straight into it. I drove back home that evening with everything inside me locked down tight, the way you hold a structure in place when you know it's under stress but hasn't collapsed yet. My wife was in the kitchen when I walked in, moving around like it was any other Tuesday, the smell of rosemary and garlic filling the air. She smiled, kissed my cheek, asked about my appointment, and I told her everything was fine. And that was the strange part, it was. My heart was steady. It was everything else that wasn't. I sat at the table and watched her, really watched her, noticing how easily she moved through the space, how natural it all seemed, like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't just seen proof that something had been happening behind my back for weeks, maybe months. That night I didn't confront her. I didn't ask questions. I didn't let anything show. Instead, the next morning, the moment she left for her book club, I made a call to someone I trusted more than almost anyone, my attorney. I told her everything, from the note to the footage to the filing with my son's signature at the bottom. She didn't interrupt much. When I finished, She simply told me to come in and not to make any sudden moves. What she uncovered over the next several days was something far worse than suspicion. It was proof. Quiet, careful transfers had been made out of our joint accounts for over a year. Not large enough to raise alarms individually, but together they added up to a number that made my stomach drop. The money had been redirected into an account I didn't even know existed, under her name alone. At the same time, that attorney, the man from the footage, had been working with her to restructure everything. New legal documents, new control, a system designed to take effect the moment I was declared incapable. And that petition, that was the trigger. If it went through, I would lose control of everything. My home, my finances, my life, without even realizing how it happened. Sitting across from my attorney, hearing words like fraud and exploitation, I found it hard to process what hurt more, the betrayal itself, or how carefully it had been built. This wasn't sudden. It wasn't emotional. It was calculated. And somewhere in the middle of it all was my son, believing a version of me that didn't exist. I went home that day with a plan, even if it didn't feel like one yet. For the next 3 weeks, I played my part perfectly. I smiled. I asked about her day. I ate dinner with her like nothing was wrong. But behind that, I started documenting everything. I installed cameras in places she wouldn't notice. I tracked patterns. I paid attention the way I used to on job sites, when every detail mattered, because one mistake could bring everything down. And then one night I caught something. She was in the office going through files, taking pictures of documents she had no reason to hide, unless she was preparing for something. That's when it became clear. Whatever she was planning, it was close. And I was running out of time to stop it. Here's your script with clean, natural line breaks for pacing and emphasis. By the time the hearing date was set, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was ready. I took everything I had gathered back to my attorney. Every document, every transfer record, every piece of footage, including the moments she thought no one would ever see. She went through it all carefully, then looked at me and said 2 words that changed everything. "We're ready." The next morning she filed a counter case, detailed, precise, and backed with enough evidence to stop everything in its tracks. It challenged the petition against me, exposed the financial activity, and formally accused both my wife and the attorney she'd been working with of fraud. Copies were sent where they needed to go, including one to my son. I didn't know when he would read it. I didn't know how he would react. But later that day, my phone rang. When I answered, there was no greeting, just his voice breaking in a way I had never heard before. "Dad!" That was all it took. I sat down on the back steps and listened as everything unraveled. He told me what he had been told, that I was slipping, forgetting things, becoming unpredictable, that doctors were concerned, that she was trying to protect what we had before it was too late, and he had believed it piece by piece, because it had been fed to him slowly, carefully over time. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't accuse him. I just told him the truth, and more importantly, I let him see it for himself when he came 2 days later. We sat outside just like we used to, and I showed him everything. The footage, the records, the documents with his own signature on them. I watched the moment it all clicked for him, the realization settling in heavy and quiet. He asked me what I needed from him, and I told him the only thing that mattered now was the truth. And he gave it. What followed took months, the kind of slow procedural process that drains you in ways you don't expect. But in the end, the truth held. The case against me was dismissed. The claims were proven false. The financial activity triggered an investigation that led to real consequences, legal ones. The attorney lost everything he had built. And my wife. She stood in a courtroom and admitted to what she had done. Not all at once, not easily, but enough. The money came back, every last dollar, but that wasn't the part that stayed with me. What stayed was the quiet after. Signing the final papers, walking out into the cold air alone, realizing that 31 years had ended not with a fight, but with documentation and signatures. These days things are different, simpler maybe. My son calls every Sunday now. Sometimes we talk about nothing. Sometimes we don't need to say much at all. I still see Russell, still have coffee on his porch, still appreciate the fact that he chose to say something when it would have been easier not to. And the house, it's still mine. The door isn't red anymore, I painted it navy. Just enough of a change to remind me that something ended, but something else didn't. Because at the end of all this, there's one thing I know for certain. Some things break quietly, but that doesn't mean you don't rebuild stronger.